Are you struggling to manage your debt? It can be a real headache, but we are here to help. Need help exploring your options? Libertine consultants offer a free assessment on our website where we can create a personalized plan to help you manage your debt. Contact us on 021 949 2211 or WhatsApp 073 0118 208. Libertine Consultants. Let us help you achieve financial freedom.
So we've reached the final stretch of 2024 and everybody's wrapping up. It's finally December and the festive season, also known as the silly season. And also I think this is also a time that a lot of people get into trouble with debt because they spend too much and they see stuff they want, but they can't really afford it, which eventually you'll end up in a bit of trouble. But that's why we're chatting to Sharon from Libertine Consultants to help us with all things debt for our monthly podcast. And Sharon, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you, Ian. It's so nice to speak to you again. I really enjoyed our conversation last month.
Yeah.
And I hope we'll have a good one today.
Oh, we certainly will. Sharon, what are the key benefits of engaging in a debt review process, and how can it help with financial recovery?
Okay, so last month we spoke about over-indebtedness, and debt review is actually one of the options or the legal options for consumers that find themselves where their income is actually less than what their debt and their living expenses are. So debt review is one of those benefits. And one of the key benefits of debt review is legal protection. And this is vitally important, is that when you have, as a consumer, you have maybe a home loan or a home study as well as a vehicle. And if you make a payment arrangement with a credit provider, even if they agree to the payment arrangement, the reality is that the credit provider is still within their legal right to proceed with legal action against you. And what I mean by that is they can still come and take the vehicle, they can still start the process of repossession on the home as well. So the debt review provides the legal protection from those things happening to your assets, and also any other legal action against you, whether it is sending a summons or so forth. The only thing that I need to reiterate, and this is so important, is that to continue to receive the legal protection while you're under debt review, you need to be consistent with your payments, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I do understand that, things happen in life and we get, off track. That's totally fine. You can communicate that with your debt counselor. But consistency in your payment is so important. The next benefit of debt review, it will reduce your monthly payments to your credit providers to an amount that is actually affordable. Okay, this is something that you will discuss with your debt counselor in the application process. They will do an assessment to see how much you can afford and also how much the credit providers legally need to get, because we need to have a bit of a middle ground there. The next thing is consolidating your debt. So currently, if you have 10 credit providers, you have to make 10 installments. Whereas if you consolidate your debt into one installment, you only pay one installment. And from that installment, each of your credit providers will be paid. You should get a statement every month showing you who has been paid, what have they received as well. So that is something that it just gives you a bit of peace of mind that you don't have to pay, multiple payments every month. The fourth thing is, and this is so important, is financial education. During debt review, you will be constantly in contact with your debt counselor, meaning you have a professional at your fingertips that you can speak to about your budgeting, even after you've actually applied for debt review. If you need, any assistance on budgeting, your saving, managing your debt a bit more effectively, or your payment to your debt review, so you will have that professional at your tips that you can maybe ask any questions that you need. Then the fifth thing is, and this is a bit controversial, is improved credit rating. And many people think that when you go under debt review, it's going to wreck your credit profile. Initially, when you apply for debt review, yes, you won't be able to apply for new credit while you're settling the debt that you currently have. But once that process is completed, once the debt review process is completed, your credit score will be quite improved and you will have no debt left. And the last and final one is to make sure that you don't have to apply for insolvency. What this means is you don't actually have to sell off your assets to actually pay back your debt. You can still keep your assets, keep your vehicle, keep your home loan, and just repay it at a lower rate over a longer period of time.
Okay, and then also once it's all paid up, of course you can start on a clean slate. It's like a new beginning.
Yes,
It's all it's like a brand new chapter, brand new book
yes.
actually. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Because once all of your debt is paid up in full, your credit score will improve. Like I've had clients that once we've issued the clearance certificate and we've updated, all the databases and so forth. And the nice thing is your debt counselor will be the person that will be doing all of this for you. Going through each of the stages with you, and that's what I do with my clients. Even once their certificate is sent out and we've updated everything, I will even go back to them and give them tips on how do you now rebuild your profile, how do you now go about wanting to apply for new credit and so forth. But once the process is completed, clean slate, you get that installment you were paying every month, that's immediately back into your budget every month, and you'll be able to repay and take your family on holiday if that's something that you want to do.
Yeah, it sounds very good. Sharon, is debt review a suitable option for everyone, or are there certain circumstances where it may not be beneficial?
Look, I would say, just going back to on what we discussed last month, is that debt review is most beneficial for consumers that are over indebted, right? And when you are in that position, it's actually going to improve your current financial position. So I would say debt review would be more beneficial for those that are over indebted. But also, it goes back to what are your goals as well. It's not only specifically for people that are over indebted. You could also be a bit proactive and say, I'm not struggling every month, but it is a bit challenging for me. So if if that's your situation, you can also apply for debt review because it will help you in the future, because you will have reduced the monthly payments and also reduce interest rates as well. So, for example, under debt review, you can actually, let's say you have a loan and you're paying about 20%, 28% interest. Under debt review, we can actually negotiate for the lowest we can get is not the lowest. Yeah, the lowest possible interest rate is 0% interest. So in the long term, that is really beneficial because imagine you were paying almost 30% interest on this particular loan, but now you can pay much less than that, meaning more of your money is actually going to the capital of your debt and not necessarily just to the servicing of your debt every month. So I would say it's for people that are over indebted, people that have, future financial goals, and it's a bit challenging for you now. Let's say you're not 100% over indebted yet, but it is still a bit challenging for you. So it is available for all consumers. It's just not available for businesses. Businesses have a completely different service, but anybody can apply for debt review.
So obviously, when you're undergoing debt review, as you mentioned, there is an impact on your credit score. Any misconceptions that people have about this process that you would like to address?
Yeah, there's actually a number of misconceptions when it comes to debt review. So the first thing is that there's the initial registration. So when you apply for debt review, what happens is there is a notification that gets placed on your credit profile with the credit bureaus, and this is to indicate to your potential credit providers that, look, this person is currently under debt review and they are in the process of settling their debt through the debt review process. So that is one thing. So it will be on your credit profile for the duration of the debt review process. And also, The next misconception is regular payment. So under debt review, your accounts will continue to receive regular, consistent payments. And this is why I mentioned previously is that you should receive a statement every single month showing that you have actually, or how much each credit provider has received. And with the payment system that we use, we actually allow our clients to have further access where they can actually draw the proof of payments showing that these accounts have actually been made to your credit providers. So the first one is, yes, your credit score, there will be a flag on your credit report to say that you have applied for debt review. There is going to be regular payments made on your accounts, and this will actually help to improve your credit profile once the debt review process is completed. And then lastly, once the debt review is completed, and we've mentioned this before, once all of your debt is settled, your status will change, and then the credit bureaus will remove that flag off your profile, and your credit score will start to recover. And it will recover almost immediately. The only thing you need to do is just to focus on healthy credit after that.
Good advice. And then, Sharon, what are some common myths surrounding debt review, and how can individuals make informed decisions?
Yeah. So I don't want to repeat myself again, so I'm going to be as short as possible for this question. But one of the myths is that debt review will ruin your credit score for the rest of your life. That couldn't be further from the truth. And I do have to acknowledge that there have been people that have negative experiences in this process. So I acknowledge that. But the reality is, with the process done properly, it can be so, so beneficial for your credit score. As I mentioned before, because once the process is completed, you will have a completely renewed credit record. All of your debt will be paid up in full, and you should not have any problems with your debt at that point. So that's what I know I mentioned earlier. I mentioned that earlier, but that's super, super important because that is not what is happening. The next thing is, for people that are considering to apply for debt review, do research and make sure that the debt counselor that you are working with has a good reputation. Check their reviews on Hello Peter. Check their reviews on Google Review as well. And make sure that you understand the process. That's the most important thing, because a lot of the myths come from misunderstandings of not understanding the debt review process correctly. So make sure the person that you're speaking to, that they are registered debt counselors. Go and check it on the NCR's website. Check their reviews. What has other people's experiences been of them? And then make sure you understand the terms and conditions of debt review. How is it going to affect you? Because when things happen down the line and, maybe that you have a challenging credit provider, or, maybe you have a challenge on your side with finances, you also need to know, what are my rights, what are my responsibilities as well. So that's very important.
And then, Sharon, how can individuals differentiate between different debt relief options available to them?
Okay, so there are different debt review or debt relief options. So the first one is obviously debt consolidation. That debt consolidation and debt review is not the same thing. So debt consolidation is a loan that you're taking out, and that loan is the purpose of that loan is to settle all of your debt, and then you repay it with one installment. So be very, very careful. If you're speaking to a service provider, make sure that you are actually applying for, is it debt review or is it debt consolidation? Because debt review consolidates your monthly installments, but debt consolidation is a loan that settles your debt and you then repay that particular lender. And debt review, which we've already discussed before, what it does, it consolidates your monthly installments towards your credit providers, and it also reduces your interest rates, because many people get confused. They think debt consolidation is debt review. So it's not. Debt consolidation is a loan, and debt review, and then Debt counseling and debt review is the same thing. So it's not two different services. Debt review and debt consolidation is the same thing. The difference is that debt review is the legal process of the negotiation, the court application, where debt counseling is the counseling or the initial conversation that you have with your debt counselor. That's where they will speak to you about your budget, your income, and so forth. And then debt settlement, I'm just putting this here, but it's not actually a service. But debt settlement is when you are settling your debt in a lump sum. So maybe you received an amount and now you want to settle your debt. Some people actually make use of a third party to do that. So maybe you want to use a third party to get your settlement amounts. You can definitely do that if you want to. And then there's sequestration. I personally do not do sequestration, but sequestration is just essentially where you are going to pay back a percentage of your debt. But in that instance, you have to, sell your assets, and it's a very, very long and tedious legal process. But in that process, you don't necessarily are able to keep your assets. Most of your assets get sold to actually sell your debt. So those are most of the services. Look, online there are a lot of services. There's a service labeled under debt mediation. However, the NCR doesn't actually it's not a service that is listed under the NCR, because debt mediation is basically a service similar to debt review. The only thing, you don't have the legal protection that you would have under debt review, because debt mediation, they also negotiate reduced installment. However, because it's not a legal process, you are not able to get reduced interest rates, and even reduced services or service charges on your accounts, because it's an informal process. So the NCR doesn't necessarily endorse debt mediation, but it is advertised online. So be careful. If it says debt consolidation, it's a loan. Debt review or debt counseling, it's debt counseling. If it's debt mediation, it's an informal process of debt review. And the challenge with debt mediation is that because you're not getting the reduction of the interest rates on your account, if you're paying less, right? So I know I'm deviating a bit, but say you're supposed to pay 1,000 Rand every month, but now you're paying 500 Rand. But let's say your interest that they're adding on your account is 800 Rand, or let's say 600 Rand every month, and you're only paying 500 Rand. What's going to happen is that your account is going to increase by 100 Rand every month, because you're paying 500 Rand, but they're adding 600 Rand to your account every month. And that's the challenge with debt mediation, because it solves your issue of paying less. But over time, what's going to happen is your debt is actually going to increase over the time, because then you're going to say to yourself, but I've been paying all the time, why is there nothing happening to my actual outstanding balance? And that's the challenge. So just be careful when you see all of these catchphrases and things online. When it specifically says debt review, debt counseling, then it is debt review and debt counseling.
All right, and what advice would you give to someone who feels completely overwhelmed by their debt and unsure of where to actually start?
Honestly, I think the best place would be to start by assessing your financial situation. Assess where you are currently financially, and then evaluate and see where you are in terms of your income. Check where you are in terms of your debt. Check in terms of where you are with your living expenses. And I think I mentioned this last month as well, but that's so important to take that time and just analyze where you currently are. Because when you know where you are, you will feel less overwhelmed by your situation, because you will know, what am I actually dealing with? And if that's a bit too much for you to actually sit and go through that, then seek professional assistance. Seek somebody like a debt counselor that can sit with your finances, and you can have a clear indication of where you are. And then evaluate. And I always say this to my clients, because sometimes they will ask me, Sharon, what do you think I should do? And I'll do what you're suggesting. And I will always say, what are your goals? right? Because your decision on what you're going to do next, and also how overwhelmed and stressful your stress levels will also depend on what am I actually working towards, what are my actual like long-term goals. Because if you keep that in mind, you won't feel as overwhelmed with this daunting challenge ahead of you. So I would say, first thing, assess your situation. If that is very difficult, and I know mental health, financial troubles can really play a part in your mental health. If you can't do that, seek professional assistance like a debt counselor that can assist you with that. And also, once you know where you are, use that to determine your long-term goals so that you can be less overwhelmed and you know what the next step is going to be.
And looking forward to the future, what proactive steps can individuals take to prevent over-indebtedness, especially with the new year approaching, Sharon?
Yeah, so this is a very brilliant question, because in order to prevent over indebtedness, you need to look at what is over indebtedness, right? It's when your income is not able to cover your debt and your living expenses. And one thing that can really help you with this is, like I said, to analyze what your income and what your debt is, and make sure, right, do the DTI calculation, like I mentioned last month, is go and calculate what percentage of my income is actually being allocated to my debt, right? Number two is to establish an emergency fund. And this, I know, the economy that we're in right now, it sounds a bit, it sounds a bit excessive, but try and have an emergency fund that you have funds for at least sorry, not two, but 3 to 6 months of your income in that account, right? And I know that sounds like quite a lot, but the reality is, like, if anything happens with your income, with your spouse's income, at least you'll have some time to make sure that you have funds to figure out what your next step is, right? Because it's very overwhelming when things change all of a sudden, but you don't have anything that you can actually fall back on. So I would say, assess, establish an emergency fund, and in terms of your debt, go and make sure that each of your accounts actually have credit life insurance. This insurance is actually built into all of your accounts, if it all the newer accounts. So what would happen is, this insurance policy covers you in the event of death, retrenchment, and disability, and there are also other benefits as well. I'm just speaking to the basic ones, but this will cover you, like I mentioned, in the event of death, in the event of retrenchment and disability. That's temporal and permanent disability. And what that policy will do is, if you have a loss of income, right, or your spouse has a loss of income, that policy will kick in on the accounts, but you need to file that complaint. So a proactive step will be is to go and check, do my accounts, first of all, have credit life insurance on them? Secondly, how much is my credit life insurance? Because if it's actually very high, you can actually move to a different service provider that is at a lower rate with the same benefits. Because if anything should happen, maybe to you or to your spouse, maybe in the event of death, you know that that is sorted. Because many a times, things happen that are out of control that actually cause people to become over indebted, right? And then maybe in the event of retrenchment, you can make sure it will cover your debt installment for a certain period of time. So it's usually between 4 to 6 months, depending on the benefit, depending on the service provider as well. So just make sure that you know exactly what your insurance, firstly, if you have insurance, how much is your insurance as well, because that will definitely help you. And then the last thing is, once you've assessed your budget, you've assessed your situation, create a realistic budget. Make sure that it's realistic. Do not put a budget where you are you're restricting your food budget or you're restricting your petrol budget. Make sure that it's realistic. Make sure when you're assessing, you're using your bank statement to see what am I actually spending my money on as well. And this goes to December as well, because I mean we're in December already. And many people actually put in a lot of like stockpile saving over the year. So I know we're already at the end of the year, but think about for next year. If you want to have December plans or go on holiday with your family, think about this. I think there's quite a number of these templates online where you can start saving like a small amount in every month or every week. There's even ones where you can save daily as well. And then at the end of the year, it will project how much money you would have for the end of the year, so that you know your income that you are getting in December, that income is going to your normal expenses, to your rent, to your normal food that you are buying, your school fees, and so forth. And this extra money that you have saved, that is actually going to go to your holiday, and you're not using your rent money, your food money, your school fees money, your book and stationery money. You're not using that money for your holiday. So go check online. There's so many where you can actually, I think it starts with a small amount in January and it increases every single month to the point where you maybe save like 12,000 or 10,000 or something like that. And it starts with a small amount, right? And it starts with a small amount and paying, okay, 200 this month, 500 next month, 3, and so and so. Because in December, when all of these expenses arise, and maybe you don't use all of that money for holiday, you can actually use it for, preparing for school and buying school books for your kids and things like that. But then you're not under pressure for that. And the last one, the one that I love the most, is setting up recurring payments. If you want to, save, if you want to, you need to pay off certain things, or if you want to, just your normal everyday, if you need to pay your kids' school fees every month, a certain amount every month, set up stop orders. Because what that does is you still have control over the payment, right? But what it's doing is it's making sure that that payment's going off on that particular day every month. It's removing the stress from you of actually going and doing the payment. So it's making sure that the payment's getting done, but there's no pressure on you to, on the 25th of every month when I get my salary, I need to pay this one and I need to pay this and I need to pay that. Even with your clothing accounts, even with if you don't have a debit order set up with your credit card or whatever, make sure you set up a recurring payment or a stop order, because a recurring payment and a stop order is the same thing. But do that, because, and when you're saving as well. So if you're going to save, let's say you pick a particular saving plan and the amount increases every month, do set up a transfer that it goes off every month, but you can actually set it up that the amount changes every month as well, because it's removing that stress from you that, I need to pay money over now. That you know that on the 26th of every month, all your things are paid. And the last thing is, choose a savings account that has a 32-day policy or 30-day policy. Because what that does is it eliminates you from going and taking that money every time you think you need that money. Because, sometimes when there's money, it bothers you. So we just put it in a 32-day account, because then you can't actually touch that money. You actually have to put effort into getting that money. So those are just a few things that could help you to just alleviate some of the pressure and also not becoming over-indebted in the future.
Thank you, Sharon. That's a lot of advice for us to process before the new year. But give us your details again for Libertine Consultants if people want to make a fresh start for the new year approaching.
Yeah, so if you want, you can message us on WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is 073 011 8208, or you can give us a call on our landline number. That's 021 949 2211. And yeah, if you need any assistance, you can just pop us a message or give us a call and we can set up an appointment.
I hope you're going to take a nice break over December, Sharon.
I will
Christmas.
try. I will try and do that.
Yeah, definitely. Get a well-deserved rest. And thank you for your contributions this year. Much appreciated. And I hope that you're going to have a fantastic festive season with your friends and family.
Thank you, Ian, and you must do the same. And Merry
thank you.
Christmas to all of your staff on that side.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Same to you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you struggling to manage your debt? It can be a real headache, but we are here to help. Need help exploring your options? Libertine Consultants offer free assessment on our website where we can create a personalized plan to help you manage your debt. Contact us on 021 949 2211 or WhatsApp 073 0118 208. Libertine Consultants. Let us help you achieve financial freedom.